Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. This is a meeting to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act of Ontario. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the proposal that is before us, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the committee, after consultation with the Secretary-Treasurer, will set a new hearing date. No further notice will be provided unless there are changes to the application. In order to conduct an effective and efficient hearing, we have adopted the following process. The owner or authorized agent will be given the opportunity, if so desired, to briefly explain to us the basis of the application and answer any questions that may arise out of the hearing. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for this presentation. You need to state your full name and address for the record. Any materials submitted to the committee for viewing will remain the property of this committee. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All persons attending the hearing who wish to support or oppose the application must also state your full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided to make your presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chairperson of the committee. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will also be at the discretion of the committee. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We do want to hear your views, however, covering the same points will not advance your case. The owner or agent will then be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to comments made by any interested parties and answer any questions from the committee members. If the owner or agent has any concerns found in staff reports, particularly with any proposed conditions, this is their opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into the committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussion. Once the committee makes an oral decision, any person desiring a copy must file with the Secretary-Treasurer at this meeting a written request for notice of the decision. There are green sheets provided at the back of the room for this purpose. Please note that you must make a written request in order to be included on the list that is used by the Ontario Municipal Board for the giving of any subsequent notice of any appeal. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed not later than 10 days for a minor variance and 15 days for a consent to the applicant, the owner and/or agent, and any other person who filed a written request for such notice. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may appeal this to the Ontario Municipal Board. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Municipal Board will be noted on the decision. If no appeal is received within the prescribed time frame, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding. The Secretary-Treasurer will then notify the applicant through written correspondence. People attending this committee meeting are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and the other people in attendance tonight. Tonight's meeting will be live streamed and available for future viewing on the town's live stream page at oakville.ca/live. And finally, we ask that any cell phones or pagers be switched off during this meeting as they tend to interfere with the audio system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for starting the meeting. There are no regrets tonight. Is there anyone here who has a declaration of any pecuniary interest? Mr. Tulowski and Mr. Charlebois. Mr. Charlebois, yours?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just with respect to CAVA 138-2017 at 190 Arachette Road.
Okay, so conflict. It's similar to the one you declared the last time when it was deferred on July 25th?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tulowski?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to declare an abundance of caution conflict on CAVA 136. That property is located within one of my subdivisions.
Okay, Mr. Tulowski, thank you. Any others? See none, okay. We'll mark those and we'll ask you to actually leave the room when those appear. Is there anyone here this evening that wishes to either request a deferral or withdrawal of an application? Anyone wishing to defer or withdraw an application? Yes, sir. Which one is this? Yes, sir. Can someone switch on the mic back there? The microphone's not working at the podium. There we go.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Here to request deferral for application A161 2017 for 2450 Meadowood Crescent. We've been working with planning staff with Kate for about the last seven months or so, trying to be proactive and get something that planning staff could support. Had a few. We're not quite there yet. We've had a few face-to-faces, and we need to further resolve some issues that they have.
Is there anyone here this evening other than the gentleman that have an interest in application CAV 161-2017 at 2450 Meadowood Crescent? Okay, members, are you satisfied with the deferral request? All those in support? Okay, it's deferred. I don't know when we can get you back on, presumably, you know, relatively short period of time, but you need to work it out with planning staff. Yep. And whatever else you need to post notice, so we won't assign any date to you. You would have to come back to our Secretary Treasurer when you're satisfied that you're in a position to request a hearing date again.
Okay.
And this matter will be deferred. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we do have a full agenda. We're going to be very cautious of our use of time. So we'll start off with application B1612. It's a consent application for 129 Douglas Avenue, and we have two related minor variances, CAVA 185-2016 and CAVA 186-2016. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is David Capper, planning consultant with Glenn Schnarr & Associates. Our address is 10 Kingsbridge Garden Circle.
What did you say your name was again?
David Capper. It's
Begging your
David
pardon?
Capper.
David Capper with Glenn Schnarr & Associates.
C-A-P-P-E-R. David.
And for the record, our address is 10 Kingsbridge Garden Circle, Mississauga, Ontario, postal code L5R 3K6.
Okay. I'm assuming there's an interest in the application, given the question that we had. Sir, anyone here have an interest in these three applications? Show of hands. Okay, so if you can proceed with a presentation, that would be...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, we've been retained by Rockcliffe Homes to submit an application for consent and minor variance applications for the property located at 129 Douglas Avenue. The consent application proposes the creation of a new residential lot. And the application proposes two lots with a frontage of 15.24 meters. The severed lot has a lot area of 692 square meters, and the retained lot has a lot area of 693 square meters. The property is zoned RL3-0, subject to special provision 10. And what I've shown you on the table on the screen here is a comparison of the zoning requirements for the RL3 zone and where the variance is required for reduced frontage. So there are two variances for the retained lot. The first is to permit a minimum driveway width of 2.6 meters. The intent of the variance is to facilitate a narrower driveway to allow for minimal impact on two town trees that are located within the property frontage. And then for each of the severed and the retained lot, there is a variance request for a reduced frontage to 15.24 meters, where the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 18. With respect to the proposed development, in order to evaluate compatibility of the proposed development within the surrounding neighborhood and the community character, we conducted a lot area and frontage analysis. We took a look at two areas. The first is the smaller study area, which is the block immediately surrounding the subject property. And then we took a look at a much broader area, which stretched as far as Gloucester and Allen, Lakeshore, and Sumner to the north. What we found in our study, with a smaller area, we had a sample size of 19. And what we found is that 73% of the lots within the study area were less than the required 18-meter frontage. And that 15.25, which is the frontage that is proposed, was the median for the area. We also found that 47% of the lots within the area were below what is being proposed. With respect to lot area, the median and the sample size was only slightly below the average, which is what is, the median is what's being proposed. Sorry, within the larger area, we had a sample size of 68 lots. Of those, 61% of the lot frontages were below the minimum requirement, and 33% were below what we're proposing at 15.24. So from our perspective in doing this analysis, what we've discovered is that certainly what's being proposed is in line with the averages and medians in the area, and certainly when you look at the minimums and the maximums for each of the study areas, it's certainly generally in keeping with what you can find in these two areas. In terms of the proposed development, we did look at what the resulting form of development would be if each of these lots were developed in full compliance with the zoning requirements, with the exception of the lot frontage requirement, and then for the southerly lot, which is the retained lot for the driveway width. So that is a conceptual footprint for a dwelling that fully complies with the zoning bylaw. Those two dwellings are each around 1,400 square feet of building footprint, and if they were a two-story building, they would be roughly around 2,800 square feet. So certainly a very reasonable dwelling constructed in full accordance with the zoning bylaw. In terms of the elevation of the building, that's the sort of conceptual elevation which would comply with all of the required setbacks, both side and front and rear. And then what you'll see here is a conceptual floor plan for what is essentially a 4-bedroom house at around, again, 2,800 square feet. This application was submitted in October of last year. We've been at this for quite some time, and the main issue that we've been trying to resolve and working with staff to resolve is the issue of where the driveway is located. There are two mature trees, one over here and one over here. One's a red oak, and the other one's a silver maple. The southerly one is a silver maple. So what we've done is we've been working with staff to design a driveway that can be constructed.
Mr. Capper, we're going to ask you to wrap it up quick. You're past your 5 minutes, but we'll give you enough time to finish your presentation.
So very quickly, we've come up with a design that we've worked with staff that they're happy with. They're confident that this design of driveway is not going to impact the trees, and that ultimately this design would be implemented as part of a future site plan approval. Mr. Chair, if I could ask your indulgence very quickly to address one of the comments from Mr. and Mrs. Collier, who live at 122 Watson. They did provide written correspondence to the town. They were concerned with drainage in the rear of their property. There is a low-lying area at the rear of the property for all of the properties along the east side of Douglas. My response would be that the grading and drainage is best resolved through the site plan process, which would be the next logical step that this application will go through if it is approved this evening. And I would suggest to you that concerns with respect to grading and drainage could be appropriately dealt with at that stage. Concludes my presentation, sir. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, the Colliers had no objection. They just wanted some clarification, just to be...
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay, fair enough. Any questions of Mr. Cap at the moment, or should we reserve until we hear the comments from the public? Okay, we'll reserve it, sir. Don't go too far. We'll invite you to come back. Okay, who would like to speak to the committee on these applications? So we're dealing with the package as one, the severance and the two minor variances. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record.
Carlisle Dunbar, 135 Douglas, next door to this. I should point out that the back lot was a creek. And there was, at one time in the spring, ducks spending a few days in the pool at the back of the Vathy House, 129. Now, I think that has been dealt with in some way by some sort of drainage with the Hayward House, which is on Randall Street. But there is a residual problem that is a water course. And that a house further down on Watson was constructed some years ago that blocked the waterway. So there is a long-term concern that that is basically a creek that is in the backyard.
Mr. Capper speak to it, but I'm assuming the Conservation Authority, if it's a regulated area, has been circulated. But we'll have that clarification. Anything else, sir?
No, that's just my comment on that. That's
Okay.
something that you should be aware of and they should be aware of as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the committee on these applications? See none, Mr. Capper? We may have some questions for you. Just very quickly on Conservation Halton. Are they circulated agencies?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't mean to speak on behalf of staff, but certainly I believe there are comments from the region. Perhaps a question better.
Okay, well, in the event it's
addressed to staff.
regulated, the regulations would apply. It's
Yeah,
not a regulated area.
through you, Mr. Chair, if I could comment with respect to the property and whether it falls within a regulated area. Although I respect the submissions of the neighbor with respect to it being a low-lying area that is subject to collecting water during rains such as this last night, but it's certainly not a regulated creek. It may serve as some form of drainage, but it's not a regulated creek. And no portion of the property falls within a regulated area.
Right, because we don't see any comments here from Conservation Halton, so that
Correct.
sort of confirms your observation as well. Any questions of Mr. Capper? Mr. Tulowski?
Mr. Capper, in your presentation and your submissions, you showed the committee a series of drawings, and you were very careful to put the word conceptual in front of each and every one of them. The committee, or at least myself, when I'm dealing with something like this, we usually see drawings that are actually proposed for the property and generally provide a condition that ties it to that. I'm assuming in this case that is not your intent and that you're asking the committee to approve the variances with no condition that they proceed in general accordance with the drawings permitted?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Tulowski, that's correct. It's not my client's intentions to develop these properties. The property would be sold off to a third-party purchaser with the assurance that any future development of the lot will be subject to site plan approval.
Is it subject to site plan
It is
approval?
absolutely covered under the site plan bylaw
Okay.
due to the fact that it's a severed property, both the severed and
Oh, yeah,
the
of course,
retained.
of course. Yeah.
With the exception of the driveway design, we've certainly put that forward with the intent of having that as a condition of purchase of sale between the developer and the future purchaser. And I believe staff will implement that specific design because over the last 6 to 8 months, that's what we've been dealing with specifically in terms of getting this application to where it is today. So if there's one part of this application that will ultimately be developed that is not conceptual, it's the driveway design, up to the point where it's outside of the tree preservation zones.
So you've used these drawings to help justify the severance, but I think what you're telling me is I can't rely at all on these drawings that you've provided because your client's going to sell the property and somebody can come in with a proposal on a house that complies with the bylaw that may look nothing like what you're presenting to the committee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. What the intent is to show with these drawings is that a reasonably sized dwelling that's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood could be developed on these lots. I've been before this committee on a number of occasions in the absence of having drawings, and the question has always been, well, what's going to be developed there at the end of the day? I've had applications where I've had no conceptual drawings, and I've had applications where I have conceptual drawings. And if I have them, I deal with this question. If I don't have them, I deal with the question about what's going to be there at the end of the day, both from a committee perspective as well from a resident's perspective. Ultimately, the answer to your question, sir, is yes, they're conceptual drawings. They could be developed through the site plan process, and they are in full compliance with the zoning bylaw.
Any further questions?
Yes, supplemental, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, Mr. Capperton, please help me with how I'm supposed to determine the appropriateness of the variance. You've gone into great detail about the character of the neighborhood in terms of the lot sizing. You've provided conceptual drawings that I believe that do meet the character of the neighborhood and have no issue with this severance and this variance. If I was assured that houses that equaled the character, not just the lot size, were being built here, and I don't know how I make that determination when you're asking me to approve substandard lots where the proposal that to what gets built on them may be completely out of character with the neighborhood, or as we've seen before, next time once this gets approved, there's an application back in front of the committee seeking a series of variances.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Tulowski, the application before you this evening is for the creation of the two lots and then a variance to recognize the reduced frontage. So in terms of the analysis that's being provided before you this evening, as well as in the planning justification report that was submitted, went to great lengths to describe the lotting fabric within the surrounding community. It's my submission to the committee that what's being proposed is certainly in line with the averages, and in the case of the smaller study area, it's above what exists in the community right now. So in terms of that application before you, I would suggest to you what's being proposed, the two lots that are one that's to be created and one that's to be retained, that is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood from a lot fabric perspective. You're absolutely correct. The buildings that I've shown you conceptually are not before the committee this evening. That's not what I'm seeking approval for. What I am seeking approval for are those two lots. And it's my submission to you with my analysis in my plan and justification report and what's in front of you on the screen right now, that when you look at either the smaller study area or the larger study area, what's being proposed is very much in keeping with the surrounding community.
Okay. Any further questions? I just want to pick up on that theme because it is a little bit troubling to me as well. From this perspective, while you're seeking justification to lower the lot frontages to what you consider to be in keeping with the character, you also supplemented that submission with the suggestion by the conceptual plans that built form of about 2,800 square meters would continue to be in character, and it could be accommodated on a reduced lot frontage of 15.24, whatever the number is. And if we have no way of if we're satisfied with that, and I am satisfied with your submission on that point, but if we don't have an ability to tie it to plans, someone could come forward in the future and try to build a home that's at 35 or even 4,000 square feet on a reduced lot frontage, where we may find that the variances just don't fit that lot. And if we had the whole package before us, we may come to that conclusion that, this is a built form is too massive, but we're comforted by the fact that you're telling us it's a modest home and a signal that no one's here opposing the variances. But to have a prospective future owner, want to build their dream home that contains a massing that's quite troubling when you look at it in that perspective, and then to be faced with the argument, well, we severed the lots and the variance is a different consideration. So I guess all this leads me to the conclusion that while they're conceptual, they have some basis in assisting us in understanding that the built form that can be deployed on the lot is in keeping with the lot fabric and the lot area. And what's the downside if this committee was to condition it, although you don't seek it and it's not part of your request, but if we were to condition it, and so if the plans change, they're entitled to come back and have those variances implemented for something bigger. But if they don't change, and it's just a character, another window here, I don't think I'd have a trouble with it. But I would have the trouble that if you're asking us to bifurcate our decisions or future considerations on a built form that we don't know, you know, on the basis that we're assured that 2,800 or whatever the number is an appropriate fit for this reduced lot frontage. Maybe that's a long question, or maybe I'm giving you too much what's in my head, but.
It is certainly a long question, Mr. Chair. What I would suggest to you and the committee members is that you have the minor variance application process.
Sorry, I'm having two conversations here, so let's hear your answer, and then I'll go to a sidebar.
Through you, Mr. Chair, what I would suggest to you and the committee members is that the minor variance application process is available to any landowner
Right.
should they wish to avail it. So yes, it is in theory possible that a future owner could go through the process and seek variances. That future owner will be before you, like I am this evening, seeking relief for whatever aspect. That's a hypothetical situation. What I can show you this evening is that my application and my client seeks the creation of an additional residential lot. We can show you through our analysis that the lots that are being created historically are in line with what exists in the neighborhood, both from an average and a median perspective. So, and what I would suggest is that
Back to my question simply, what's the harm of making a condition? And if someone wants to seek a variance to increase the massing, they would increase the variance to change the build form too?
Mr. Chair, the harm is that there's nothing to condition. These two buildings are completely compliant with the zoning bylaw. So I've shown you conceptual drawings that comply with the zoning bylaw in all respects. So
In a certain location, and that's fixed.
that is correct, sir.
Yeah.
And as is the request for the reduced lot frontage.
So we could condition the severed lot, I guess, because it's got a fixed location in accordance with the plan submitted.
That's correct for the driveway plan, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
all the plans submitted for that. Because you showed us the location of the garage in relation to the driveway, the entrance onto the street, and we can, like, we don't need the floor plans, I guess, but that site plan informed us in arriving at a decision. We haven't made one yet, but that informed us.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if the committee would allow me the indulgence of a few moments to call my client, if you can perhaps put me off a few agenda items, if in fact it is the direction that the committee is going, that they wish to approve the application subject to the drawings that were submitted, I would note to you that, again, they comply fully with the zoning bylaw, and the lots are subject to site plan approval anyway. So, you know, I'm happy to ask my client that discussion and seek direction.
Mr. Tulusky, would that benefit you?
It would definitely benefit me.
Okay. Then maybe we should do it that way, because I think it might just afford us an opportunity. Yes? We have someone that likes to add some additional information to our knowledge base. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate again your indulgence on this matter. I just want to highlight for clarity's sake that the application for the consent as presented to you does include a condition which speaks to receiving final approval of the minor variances that are also associated with this application.
That's for lot frontage.
For lot frontage and for the additional variance requested, the applications are being viewed as a whole.
Right.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I would submit to you that in your earlier submission, if the applicant cannot comply with their variance, thus forcing them back to this committee, it puts their severance application also out of approval.
But
So while they would receive.
But you have the potential of receiving your certificate based on zoning compliance. The lots are sold to someone who wants to build a dream home, and that dream home owner comes back and says, I need a variances now after they got the consent. That's what Mr. Tulowski's worried about.
Right, through you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the applications before the committee this evening are to reflect the lot frontages themselves together with the location of driveway. Staff are the ones that request the conceptual plans to demonstrate that the lots, as a reduced size, can accommodate a dwelling that would be in line with the zoning bylaw. We rely on the subsequent planning processes of a site plan application to deal with matters such as urban design, the mass and scale, the siting of the dwelling, and access. We had identified that the retained portion had an issue with access, which would have prevented us from moving forward to create the lot in the first place. The applicant has demonstrated that access to that lot can be provided in a manner which is within our approval that we would support in this instance, and that would be deferred to the site plan process where it could be executed.
Right, and that process will start off presumably, because you need to register an agreement, will be registered on each lot. The question, I understand that leading up to site plan and even perhaps, but the question that Mr. Tulowski has, and I'm trying to pick up on that theme, is you receive your consent, you register it immediately, and you sell the lot to someone, and now someone's coming in to build their dream home after the consent. They have to go through site plan, and they come in with the site plan that shows a built form that is 4,000 square feet.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, should they show a built form that is beyond what the zoning bylaw allows, they would be coming back to this committee for a minor variance application to be assessed on its own merits at that time.
Okay.
And I would also highlight that an applicant is unlikely to go through that process without having at least one evaluation of their site plan application through staff to ensure that the massing and scale of that building is in line with what we would like to see for that lot.
But that's true. It may be, and I'm not going to belabor this point anymore, but the only last comment I have to say is that may be true, but when the matter comes before the committee, and if it came together with a variance for something greater than just lot frontages, including the GFA variance, maybe side yards, we may not entertain it the same as we would for a lot that's created that complies with zoning. That's my only sort of response to your proposition.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I don't disagree. However, it's been pointed out both by staff in our report as well as with the applicant in their submissions that the lot is being created is consistent with the lot fabric that exists. So
Today.
therefore, it would be no different than any other lot that exists today coming in for those types of variances respecting an increase in residential floor area or lot coverage or height.
Okay, I don't think we can add any more to that discussion. I think we understand our respective positions. No further questions? Did you have an answer?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
You were going to take 5 minutes.
I would like if you could pick me up about 2 applications from here. I'll have a
Sure,
quick chat
I
with
think
my
it's
client.
a good idea, great
If that's
suggestion
okay.
that you had. So we'll defer it, and if there's any questions, you can go outside and discuss. No, just you can discuss whatever comments you have outside with the agent, and we'll call you back in 2 applications. Right, no, those discussions with the committee are over, but you should certainly, you can talk as much as you want to Mr. Capper, as long as you don't delay him coming back. Okay, so we'll defer
you,
that
Mr.
very,
Chair.
very, very briefly, and we'll go to application CAVA 136-2017 at 518 Hidden Trail, and we'll allow Mr. Tulowski some time to maneuver out of the room. Sir, name and address for the record.
My name is Richard Lambert. I'm the owner of 518 Hidden Trail in Oakville.
So you're the landowner?
Yes, I am.
Okay, is there anyone here that has an interest in application CAVA 136-2017 at 518 Hidden Trail? Did I see any hands? You do? Sir, are you here in support or opposition? Okay, so sir, present your case and we'll invite the gentleman to come down and share his concerns.
Okay. We bought the property with intent to build a open porch on the back of the property. We measured off the back fence line as a straight fence line, and we did all the setbacks to that. We put the drawings in, got the drawings approved. When we got the, I guess the lot drawings from the city, it showed that there was actually a jut in from Halton Conservation. So the fence line does not match the drawing line, which means that we were off our setbacks. So we had a choice either to leave the porch as it is and screen it in, and if we screened in the porch, we would match all these setbacks. What we're asking is that we don't have to screen in, because when you look out the kitchen, you'll see the screen and you won't see the forest. So we're asking for a setback to the fence line, not to the Halton Conservation lot line.
So I'm not quite sure what you mean by the Halton Conservation lot line, because this is not really a regulated area, so where is that coming from?
If
It's simple, you're allowed a projection into the rear yard of 2.5 meters, and you build it at 3.96.
we match it to the back fence, so the back fence is flat.
So the
The back fence is not built on the lot line. If the back fence was built on a lot line, it would come in as an arrow. But the back fence was built flat. We measured it on the back fence, not realizing that the back fence is not really the city lot line of that property. The city lot line comes in like an arrowhead into the back property. So we don't know why that
So
exists.
the fence is not on your lot line?
The fence is straight, and
No,
our
but
lot
it's-
line comes in at an angle. So really, the fence is wrong.
Well,
Whoever
that's
put
what
the
I mean, you got a plan there? Show
I
us
don't
what-
have it, no, I just,
Can you ask him to put this up? So we have your plans here, we're gonna project it on the screen so you can help us with this.
okay.
Because you have a survey of the property, right? When you bought it?
Yes,
So there's where the irregular lot line is in the rear?
right, so this
Right.
arrow here, but the actual fence comes flat.
All right, so the fence comes flat, and you built it according to the fence line, but you
Yes.
found out that your lot line jogs.
Right,
And when you bought the lot, you didn't know it jogged?
no, we didn't.
You didn't know it jogged?
No, we
Are you the
didn't.
original owner?
No, I'm not.
You're the second owner?
I am the third owner, I
And
believe.
did you not get a survey with the property when you bought?
No, we didn't, we got it after.
Did you get title insurance?
Yes, I believe we did.
You got it after?
Yes,
After when? After you bought the lot?
yeah, after we purchased it.
So you must have known when you saw it that it jogs.
Well, we got this afterwards, but when we put the drawings in, we put it into a flat
All right,
fence.
so you basically assume the lot line is the follow the
Yes,
fence
we
line.
assumed
and
it
you
was the
found-
fence line,
And you found out after that, in fact, the lot jogs and you're closer than,
right.
okay. Any questions?
Just to clarify, though, that the town of Oakville did give you a building permit, and you did build it in accordance
Yep.
with the permit? Okay.
And then how was this error discovered? Someone complained?
I guess the error was discovered here when they looked at the,
Property boundaries and they
yeah,
saw
the
that it-
setbacks, and then they said, no, you're not within the setbacks because of this.
Jog.
So if you want, you can not go to the city, or the adjustment committee and put a screen in the porch, then you fit all the setbacks. But if you don't want the screen in, then I have to come here, and
Okay,
so that's kind of where we're at.
so it was really a bunch of errors that led to this misunderstanding.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry? Yeah, okay, thank you for that. That's helpful to put us in that sort of frame of mind. Okay, just have a seat not too
Okay.
far, and then we'll invite the gentleman that showed an interest to come down and speak to us.
Thank you. My name is Henry Iwicki. I live right beside.
Sorry, you're gonna have to speak up, sir.
I live right beside
Your name and address?
Henrik Iwicki, 514 Hidden Trail.
How do you spell your last name?
Iwicki. Yeah. Okay, I'm next door to the Mr. Richard Lambert. Yeah, he's built a huge addition to his house. We paid premium for my lot to the builder, $85,000 a few years back. Okay, and he's bought the house a year ago. Now he's selling it. So it looks like they built the addition to make some money or something like that. They paid 1.5 million. Now they're asking.
So I'm just gonna interrupt you, and I sorry to do that. I mean, market values and the cost of homes and the additions, you know, the value of additions, it's something we can't deal with, but we can certainly deal with how this impacts you.
Okay.
You know, we understand,
So
yeah.
we paid for the premium lot, like for the ravine lot. So now, because of
We
the
don't
huge.
control the price of the builders. We'd like to hear how this variance affects you.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Because of this huge structure on the side, I don't see any green on my right-hand side. If I want to sell my house,
Which side of, got the line there, which house?
I am on the left,
So show me on the plan. Show me on the plan. You see the plan there?
on the long side, like
No, just show me on the plan there.
here. That's my side.
no, the other side.
Okay, and do you have any patios in yours that obstructs your view? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
It obstructs your views when you look
on the side.
on this side? Okay, he's got my plans unfortunately. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Any questions of Mr. Huiki? No.
I have something here.
Yeah, I just have one, just to clarify. So you're on the side where the patio is smallest, where it doesn't jut in, where it actually does comply. So your concern is just with the fact there's a patio there, as opposed to the fact that
Well, it's
part of it goes a little deeper than it was initially supposed to. Because if they were to comply and actually cut the patio back, there would still be a big patio there.
Oh, but still, it's 5 feet, right? So that's a lot. We have a small lots there, like
Yeah.
50 by 100.
Okay.
And I never seen anything like that before. They built without permit, like 75%.
All right,
So probably the contractor did the mistake. I don't blame him, but
okay.
now
thanks.
it's,
No,
so,
but I guess what Mr. Charlebar was saying, this is why we ask you impact questions. I understand when you look this way,
Yeah.
of course it will obstruct your view. You didn't
'Cause
have
we-
it there, and it will obstruct your view. But as we heard, if they were to enclose it, then they would comply with zoning, right? But if they don't enclose it, which is what they're proposing not to do, they certainly have the opportunity of angling the covered patio to take the same angle as the lot to make it comply in that small area, maybe half of it.
well, my side is closed.
But it wouldn't affect what you see. That's what Mr. Charlebois is saying. You know, I don't have my drawing here to draw it, but I think if you were to imagine the patio
Well, I have
taking.
two pictures if you wanna look.
Sure, yeah, no, let's see it.
Okay,
But, oh, it's on the iPhone?
yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to keep the iPhone.
Maybe not.
No,
I
no, go
save
ahead.
papers.
Go ahead, show us. If it's on 7S, we'll keep it. If not, we don't want it. You're gonna have to email them to us as well, okay? Because that's part of the evidence.
Oh, okay, so,
No, just show us, because we wanna see it, you know? We don't always
But,
get to see people's backyards, so.
I don't know if you wanna,
No, just put it, see where the plan is? Yeah, put
this
it there, and it'll project it. There you go. Turn it.
oh, sorry.
There we
The
go.
other way.
Get rid of this drawing.
Sorry, yeah, so we'll see more.
Then we can see it a bit
Okay,
better.
sorry.
No, move it up the other way. Okay, so
Okay.
explain to us what we see here.
Yeah, so you see the porch with the roof, which is that, like, you see the corner?
And
That's
where's your house?
on the
No,
left.
show
That-
on the picture,
like you
show on the
see
picture.
On the, like, on
Show,
the.
show on the picture, show on the picture, sir.
Oh, okay, right here.
No, it's not. Your house is the other way. House matches the brick line of the other house.
Okay, we're getting evidence from someone, but in any event,
taking a
you can
side.
clarify when you come up. Okay, where's the other picture?
Okay.
Okay, I think we understand. We won't put you through the trouble
uh,
trying to find it unless you,
Maybe this one,
it's the same picture that shows the,
or maybe this way. It's even,
okay.
maybe like this.
So your house is on the other side? Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. Thank you. Any questions? See none. Anyone else wishing to speak to the committee on this matter? Okay, sir.
So, his house is here.
Right,
His back is here. He was taking a picture from basically his end of his backyard this way.
right,
So his
yes.
fence line is the same fence
Right.
line as we have.
Yeah, that's sort of.
So when
came
you look out
obvious.
his window, this corner here, but this is not the affected part. It's this part that we have to screen in. So because it's this lot line, there we go, right? Wait, I'll move it down.
Can we
right
zoom out,
there.
please? Yes,
So
okay.
it's this area we have to screen. It is only this. Everything here complies. We have to just screen this box in, which didn't make sense because then there needs to be a door in there. So this is what we're saying. We can screen this in, and it complies with everything. But we can be here and not screen this in and see if we'll get the setback put to back to the fence line.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Lambert? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll take this matter to committee. Okay, who would like to move a recommendation on this? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Charlebois.
Mr. Chairman, having conducted my site visit and read the staff report, listened to the applicant's presentation as well as the objection of the neighbor, and trying to understand the series of events that have led to this and what the potential solutions are on the table. As I understand them, we could remove part of the patio. We could screen in part of the patio, or we could approve a variance. And as I look at the various options in here, I'm actually convinced by the applicant's submission that this was done in error. I do note that the town of Oakville did issue a building permit, and that at the end of the day, probably the solution of not screening it in is a good one. So I'm going to put forward a motion that this application be approved as submitted, finding it does meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, making it, well, it is built, am I correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so without any conditions. Let me just check to make sure that the town didn't have one.
Sir, do you need a building permit, or you applied for one already?
We have a
It's
building
done,
permit.
it's built and
Okay.
issued and everything, so without any conditions.
Have you received final inspection? Not yet, right?
No.
You're not cleared because,
Because of this.
Because of this.
Because it
But
was
you-
either we put a screen in or not, so we're just waiting for this to see whether we do
yeah,
that.
I don't think we need a condition. Okay, because it's already built. Okay, discussion on recommendation? Seeing none, all those in support? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, sir, your application's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Application, no conditions. Application, CAVA 161, 2017 at 2450 Meadowwood Crescent.
That's deferred.
Oh, that one was deferred, yeah, thank you for reminding me. CAVA 162, 2017 at 417 Sandmere Place.
Hi,
Good evening.
good evening. My name is Rasha Kassab. I'm the
Sorry, you
one-
have to slow down.
My name is Rasha Kassab.
How do you spell the last name? got it?
K-A-S-S.
Okay, we got it. Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. You're the owner, sorry. I thought you were an agent, so you're the owner.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And your address?
Sandmere 417.
Okay.
And doing the postal code or no need?
No, we,
Okay.
yeah, we have a Mississauga address.
This is our current address, but
Okay, that's fine. So we have your addresses, that's
Yeah.
right. You can proceed. So this, staff are not satisfied. Doesn't mean that we're not, but just let's see, is there anyone here that has an interest in application CAVA 162, 2017? Okay, so look to your left. You have a group of neighbors here.
okay.
So,
So
we're in your hands. Would you like to proceed with the application? If you do, you have to give us a presentation.
Okay.
Have you, can I just
I
ask
just-
out of
I
curiosity,
just
have you
have-
had a chance to meet with staff?
I just have just a few points that
Okay.
to declare it for the points I get from the neighbors. If you want to say it now or later.
Well, no, if, the reason why I ask is I'd like to know if you had a chance to discuss it with staff and, with your neighbors, but we'll proceed. Give us a presentation on your application and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Okay. So the variance that we requested is to increase our floor area. It's not for a luxury reason. We want it for a luxury reason that we may keep the swimming pool and make the elevation in other way. We need to increase it because the family will occupy this house. It has 2 seniors, and it's not easy for them to facilitate the levels and the whole house. So we intend to do an elevator to make their movement more easy. So that's why we need to increase the area of the floor area of the house. Otherwise, they will not be able to use just the floor area, the main floor area. And I noticed that some of our neighbors are not happy, but we don't want any one of them will be not happy because some of them talk about the privacy, and we will not do anything that affect the privacy of our neighbors. And we intended to do a fence in the backyard, so that will keep the privacy, their privacy and our privacy, of course. And also, we didn't put windows at the sides of the house. That's why also keep the privacy with our neighbors in both sides. And some of them that the area, all the area is an old area, and the house itself, it's not healthy to live with it as it is. So it's of course anyone else will buy the house, will demolish it and rebuild it again, and that's why it will be, of course, a bigger house with more floor area. And when they have new houses in their area, I think it will increase the value of the other houses, also the old houses. So it's right, it's not, some of them, they are not happy with the constructions in the area, but that will increase the value of their houses too. And the area will be nicer than before.
As I said earlier, we don't get into values, but have you had a chance to read staff report on this application?
Sorry?
Have you had a chance to review staff's report on this application? Planning staff write a report. Did you get a copy of it?
Sorry,
You must have received a copy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what they said in the report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know the reasons why staff?
Yeah, some of them are disappointed of the construction in the area.
No, not
And,
residents. I'm talking about staff.
Sorry, the report that was emailed to you on Friday,
Yeah.
okay, that's,
Yeah.
the chair's referring
Okay.
to that report
Yeah.
from the planning department.
Yeah.
Okay.
So have you had a chance to review that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and do you understand what they're saying in that report?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're saying that the building is not in character with the neighborhood, and it's overbuilding? Did you understand that? Can you give us some submissions on that? Can you tell us why it's in character and why it's not overbuilding?
It's overbuilding because we need to make a new house because of a big family will occupy this house and they need an elevator. So that's why we need. There's two
that's not the
seniors.
reason we want to hear. You're saying I'm overbuilding because I need the space. Staff are saying overbuilding. They're not using it in a positive way. They're using it in a negative way. They're saying it's too much building for this lot. They're saying you're building too much on this lot.
It's two seniors and three adults. How it's not too big for them.
No, of course. I'm sure the size you're proposing is absolutely wonderful for the room that you need, but staff don't look at it from how many people occupy a house. They look at it from the perspective of how this house will fit into the character of the neighborhood. And because you're seeking approval from this committee to build something that is not in keeping with the neighborhood, staff assessed it, and they said it's not in keeping, it's overbuilding. And you're saying, well, I need the house this big for the reasons why we heard. But I'm saying that's not good enough for us. We need a bit more information from you as why this house is compatible with the neighborhood. I just want to be fair to you because it sounds like you don't have much experience in this area, and we wanted to make this process fair for everyone.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a few more minutes if you want to reflect on that and tell us.
No.
But is nothing else you wish to add?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the agent? Not at the moment from the owner? Okay. Who would like to start off? Now, I remind you, we don't need to hear the same comments and concerns. Repeat it. So if you're a spokesperson, you may please advise us on who else you're representing.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Bishop, and I live at 417 Sandmere Place. So a number of the neighbors that have come out this evening, I believe, have come out as a result of not only the letter the town has sent out, but I also went around to the neighborhood and spoke with a number of people recently on Sunday.
Your address is?
417.
And which one, though? What street?
Or sorry, 421, excuse me, 421 Sandmere. I'm not
Yeah,
on
you were throwing us
417,
off
they
at
are.
417.
421, I'm terribly sorry.
So you represent other owners? Do you have those
No,
addresses?
I am the owner of 421.
And you're here on behalf of others or just for yourself?
I am well, I think others did want to speak. They may have some other points to raise as well.
All
So
right.
I am here to
All right,
tell you
let's
how I
hear-
feel about this.
Let's hear your concerns. You have 5 minutes.
My husband and I have lived at 421 for 16 years in a neighborhood where homes were built around 1955 to 1959. These homes are small 3-bedroom bungalows, anywhere from about 950 square feet to 1,200 square feet. They're modest and quaint and definitely allow for each neighbor to have some wiggle room on each side of their home with none encroaching on the other. This leads me to today. Within the Town of Oakville's official plan, Part B, Mission Statement and Guiding Principles, it states, Guiding Principles number 2.2.1, preserving and creating a livable community in order to preserve, enhance, and protect the distinct character, cultural heritage, living environment, and sense of community of neighborhoods. Further, in the official plan, Part D, Land Use Designations and Policies, Point 11, Residential, states the following objectives shall apply to all residential areas. Encourage the conservation and rehabilitation of older housing in order to maintain the stability and character of the existing stable residential communities. Then in section 11, number 11.1.9 states, development within all stable residential communities shall be evaluated using the following criteria to maintain and protect existing neighborhood character. The built form of development, including scale, height, massing, architectural character, and materials, is to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The owners of 417 have placed an application before you for a variance to zoning bylaw 2014-014 to increase their floor area ratio from the allowed 41% to 47.4%. For those of us who are not in the construction business or do not have experience in reading blueprints, this may not seem to be a very big change when looking at the numbers as they are stated. However, when converted to imperial units, the increase is dramatic. The 41% residential floor area ratio that is allowed converts from almost 298 square meters to almost 3,205 square feet. The owners are requesting the 47%, which converts to almost 344 meters squared, which that converts to 3,700 square feet. Therefore, their 6.4% increase that seems small is actually almost 500 square feet of floor area over and above our bylaws. To simplify things, the variance this builder is requesting is by no means a minor one. The amount of floor area ratio they are requesting to increase their plans is equivalent to 1/2 the size of my home. The Town of Oakville's bylaws already allow for homes to be built that take up most of the property they are on. This variance is definitely not in keeping with the character of this neighborhood. It is far larger than our bylaws allow and therefore far too large for the property the building will occupy. I'm also concerned about the privacy or lack thereof that we, the owners of 411 on the other side, as well as myself, 421, will experience. Both of our homes are still modest bungalows. The building to be erected on 417 will tower over both our homes and will allow for the occupants to have a clear view into my home as well as both of our entire properties. The owner of the building, I'm just going to go back to this drawing here. She states that the privacy will not be affected. This home here, this home here, this is 411, I think she will speak later. This is their proposed house to build. This is 411's house. You can see the difference in the size right there. The bylaw already allows for a building to be erected on this property that is 3.5 times the size of my home. There's nothing I can do about that. However, the owners are requesting that they be allowed to build something that is almost 4 times the size of my home, and that of most of the homes that exist on our street. I'm officially not supporting this application. Lastly, the design of this building is definitely not in keeping with the character of Sandmere Place. Not only is the building proposed to be approximately 4 times the size of the many long-time existing homes, the roof line is short and boxy. While I realize this is the current trend in house building, because it is not in keeping with the neighborhood's character, it will definitely have a stark appearance and not fit into the existing character of Sandmere Place. There is far too much exterior wall space, since the interior ceiling heights being built to their maximum allowance make this design necessary. As demonstrated by my home, which we did renovate, but we did not go up, we did not increase our footprint at all, it is not impossible to improve the curb appeal and property value of one's home without increasing the size of the building. I respectfully request the variance that has been applied for 417 Sandmere to be denied.
Thank you. Can you leave that presentation with us, please?
Absolutely. There's a few scribbles in it.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Any questions? Okay. Who else would like to speak to the committee? Yes, can you just hand it here, we'll take it into. Members, you would like to read it, or are you comfortable if it was delivered in accordance with the presentation? Yeah, thank you. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Estes Paul Moustakelis. That's first name E-S-T-E-S, middle name Paul. Last name M-O-U-S-T-A-C-A-L-I-S. 448 Sandmere Place.
448?
Yes, I'm just outside of the area.
No, you're within the area, you're just outside that little fancy circle that we drew.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My parents bought this home in 1966. As a result, I grew up in the house, played there in the area, attended school in the area, and most recently I'm living in our family home. I have seen what has happened to the street over many decades. I'm here tonight to express my opposition to allowing any variance for 417 Sandmere. There are a number of other properties that are being prepared for construction, not to mention that there are at least 6 other homes on my street that are in the various stages of construction. Most of these property owners have not put up appropriate notices, and I have not received any information from them.
Mr. Moustakelis, I'm going to ask you, sir, if you could concentrate on this variance.
Certainly.
I have no doubt there's lots of building activity.
Certainly.
And the reason why you don't get notices sometimes is because they don't need to give you notice of a building permit. They post it, and sometimes they comply.
Okay.
And if they don't comply, they're here. So
okay, allow me to get to the point then. Allowing for the variances for this property and other properties on the street go against the town plan for the following reasons. 1, it does not preserve, enhance, or protect the character of the neighborhood. It increases the town's ecological footprint, putting up a 4,000 square foot home, more or less, requires more heat and energy to cool than a 1,200 square foot home, which is currently what most of the houses are. It puts a strain on the town infrastructure, both in terms of electricity and disposal of construction wastes. This home would not increase the density, which is one of the goals of the Municipal Act. It simply decreases the green space that's around these homes right now. Number 4, it makes housing in this neighborhood and in Oakville in general more unaffordable, except for the very well-heeled. When I first moved into the neighborhood, it was mainly people who were electricians, plumbers, town employees, and so forth. And basically, from my point of view, it will needlessly increase my property taxes.
That's a whole different debate.
That's a whole different thing. Okay, fair enough.
Property taxes are affected far beyond reasons that is within our knowledge base, so.
But most of the other homes have stayed within the original footprint. They've added garages, much as we did it with our home. We added a single-car garage, and most of the homes have stayed within reason and the proportion of this. This is a marked difference, as you can see from their original. So those are the main points that I think.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Moustakelis? Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Who else would like to speak to the committee? Okay. You're welcome to come back and respond to those 2 areas of concern that you heard, or the areas of concern.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Just one point that. Okay. Just one point that about the size of the house, it's too big. At the zoning data, the maximum lot coverage by law, it's 35%. And the proposed to be is 33.1%. So we are under the limit. Yeah. Yeah. Just. No. I think else.
Any questions?
Ms. Kassab,
yeah.
you're the owner and you also own do you own the construction company
Yeah,
too?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
the same thing, so
Yeah.
you're both the client and.
Yeah, we established company to build the house.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Any further questions? See none, okay, we'll take this matter to committee and we'll issue a decision. Who would like to move a recommendation? No? You had your chance. It's like trying to take a test again after you failed it. Who would like to move a recommendation? Mr. Telowski, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as the committee knows, test of minor variance is not simply size, as has been expressed by some of the residents. However, in this context, I'm not swayed by the submissions of the applicant that the need for the family justifies the variance. I am, however, swayed by the submissions of staff and the residents that this additional 500 plus square feet in the context in which it's presented, which in my view does nothing to try to blend in with the community, try to transition. It's not, I don't find it to be minor or desirable in the context of which this is being added to effectively try to build a very large 2-story box with a flat roof. I don't think that's in character, and as I said, I don't believe it's desirable or minor. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to move the application be denied.
Thank you, Mr. Telowski. Discussion recommendation, seeing none. All those in support? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, your application's been refused. Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed to application CAVA 163-2017 at 1498 Bridge Road. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sorry, I'm just going to, did you receive the comments that were emailed to you on Friday? Did you receive the comments?
No, I'm back from vacation yesterday.
Yeah, we tried to get in touch with you
Yeah.
because there was a problem with your application, with the drawings. Like, have you read your email since?
I spoke 1 hour ago with John, his hospital, and
John who? We don't know John.
The architect?
John, this is architect who prepare everything. I spoke with him 1 hour ago, and he told me he back from the hospital, and tomorrow will be the same in hospital, but I have no idea what.
There was a problem with the drawings that were submitted, so we're trying to get new drawings, and until we receive those, unfortunately, the application can't move forward. Did you read the email that, I know you said you just got back from vacation, but did you read the email that I sent you on Friday?
Okay, no, I wasn't in home.
Yeah, you should.
Today I back.
Oh, okay, but you should still have read your emails.
Yes, but today I back when I read my email, and then I spoke with
right,
John.
because it said it can't move forward as it is, but
Okay.
we were unable to get in touch with you.
Okay.
So, sir, the bottom line is that we don't have the information with us to make a decision. Unfortunately, it needs to be deferred.
Okay.
You have to come back at another hearing. And we tried, you heard, to get in touch with you, and we were unable to. And because of that, we can't proceed because we need the full information before us. So this matter, unfortunately, will need to be deferred. Is anyone here that has an interest in application CAVA 163-2017? This is for 1498 Bridge Road. Okay, so what we need to do, sir, is defer it. There's a deferral fee that you need to submit to the Secretary Treasurer, and have your architect change the plans to reflect exactly what you need.
Okay.
And then you need to come back. Unfortunately, if we proceed today, it's at your peril, and it's probably a really good idea that you seek a deferral.
I understand, sir.
Members, you're all in agreement with that? All those in support? Okay. We'll defer it, sir. Get in touch with the Secretary Treasurer, or ask your architect to get in touch with the Secretary Treasurer.
Okay.
Come see me tomorrow.
Yes.
If you can make it to Town Hall, you can come and just come and see me tomorrow at Town Hall, and we can go through what we're looking for in your drawings.
So you have an appointment with our Secretary Treasurer at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
If you can make
Okay,
it in for then, that would be
okay,
great.
I coming. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, are you free 10 a.m. tomorrow?
absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
I just booked you a meeting, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Application CAVA 164-2017. Okay, Mr. Capper, you ready to proceed?
Mr. Chair, if you're ready for me, I can certainly have a conversation.
Okay, so we've had a full hearing on this, and you asked for an opportunity to reflect on those comments you heard. So we don't want full submissions again, we just want to know, I think you've sort of listened to at least the debate from two of the members, not all the members. So to be fair, there's others that may have a different view, but we wanted to give you a chance to, since you've asked for it, to seek deferral.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I've certainly had a chat with my client as well as the neighbor. I believe I've got a solution that'll keep everyone happy. Although for a matter of housekeeping, I just need to confirm that the drawings that were submitted to the town are the September 15th drawings that are prepared by J&R Consulting. And the issue is that my planning justification report only has a front elevation and a site plan. So I want to make sure that you've got a full set of drawings, or at least the town does.
Well, we have the drawings that are attached, like you said, to your conceptual, yeah. So what is it that's different from?
There's no difference. It's just that you don't have a complete set of drawings.
All
So
right,
I'm happy to tie the approval to the drawings.
Okay.
On the subject, at least on the basis that they're the September, if I can,
Well, are those the drawings that you put up there?
this is the front elevation, that's correct.
You
but
showed
it's-
the other drawings as well, right?
So I have shown you floor plans.
Right. They're all dated, at least the ones I have are dated September 15th, at least the
September
elevation.
15th in, sorry. September
All right.
15th here,
Yes.
and September 14th here. So this is the latest revision at September 15th.
Yes, that's right. The A5 is the same as in your staff report, planning justification report.
That's correct, sir.
So why don't you undertake to give us a full set of drawings then?
This evening,
No,
I can certainly get you a full set tomorrow or
tomorrow.
before
that's
the end of
fine.
the week.
So
yeah.
you're saying on the condition, on the understanding that it's the same drawings that you showed us tonight, that you're prepared to accept a condition that ties it into those drawings?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Mr.
And that,
Pulaski,
what
any-
that will do is that will allow for the development of the property in accordance with the existing zoning regulations. With respect to the floor area, it's a maximum 19% lot coverage provision, and then a maximum residential floor area regulation of 43%. Ultimately, it ends up with a 2,800 square foot building as a maximum that would be permitted under the existing zoning bylaw. And that's what is exhibited in these drawings.
Right. Okay, Mr. Tulowski, any questions? It was, oh, yeah, no, we have a bunch of questions that are popping up. Yes, so let's hear Kate's questions first, and then, or you want to give them yours so she can answer both at the same time? Okay, why don't we do it that way?
Because I always like going before her. I don't know.
It's not Jeopardy.
I've just got a concern about imposing this condition on, I guess it is going to be, it becomes a condition of severance, which means if you
No,
don't
no,
build.
variance.
No, it's going to be, it'll be a condition of the severance, the way this is written. And my concern is if you don't build the homes that way, then the severance is in trouble. So I don't really know how we're going to deal with that. So that's probably what she was going to.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the committee. As per my earlier comments, this particular consent application has a condition included in Appendix A of the report that requires final approval of the minor variances. So any condition that would be attached to the minor variance application could put the consent in jeopardy of being void if those conditions are not adhered to. So typically, when we see a minor variance application for items such as lot coverage or floor area or height, we tie those to the specifics of the drawings that have been given so that we can clearly understand the impacts of those specific variances that are being reflected in those plans. In this instance, should you choose to do that and through the site plan process there is a modification provided, then the consent that had been granted, being that that variance condition satisfies that element, it runs the risk of having an impact on the transfers of those properties because that consent is no longer valid. This is why staff ask for the material to be provided conceptually so we can understand that there is no implication or resulting variances based on the reduced lot frontage that's being requested. Lot coverage and floor area are mechanisms of the area of the lot, which do comply with the zoning bylaw. They are not a mechanism of the frontage that is being requested. The only additional variance that's been sought is for the access, which we believed was important to be addressed now to save the applicant from coming back at a site plan stage and asking for that specific variance. So instead of submitting another application for variance down the line, they've asked for that application for variance at this time. So I don't disagree that a variance condition that ties the location of the driveway to the plans as provided would be an appropriate condition in this instance. But staff have not done the appropriate urban design evaluation on the concepts because they are just that, they are conceptual. So to allow for the homes to be tied to the plans as they've been provided today removes the opportunity for staff to do a further evaluation to again further mitigate any impacts of massing on a building that would otherwise comply with zoning. That is the process for site plan through that process.
But you also raised the other interesting question that oftentimes we get variances that come before us before site plan. And, you know, your argument today almost suggests that you should really go for your site plan before you come for your variance. You know, we've heard the other side of the argument as well on that one. Because things can change with the site plan, right?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, through this particular application, it has been our standard practice that in reviewing a consent application with an associated variances for lot frontage, that they would go together, that a site plan application submitted in advance of determining whether or not a lot could be created would not be in the best interest of staff resources to review that when we don't know if the lot can be created through this committee process. So we ask that the consent be considered first and foremost. We ask for conceptual plans to understand whether or not the applicant can provide a dwelling that would maintain the character of this neighborhood, which they have done. And through the site plan process, we would further evaluate the merits of the proposal, viewing drainage, grading, tree protection, siting of the building, the massing, the scale of the building, etc. Those are normal site plan process items, which is why site plan is required for residential severances such as these. It gives us that opportunity to further refine those details.
Thank you. I guess the other advantage is we have the wonderful interweb that records these things in perpetuity so we can always go back and reflect on the discussion we had tonight. Yes, Mr. Charlebois.
Follow up on that question. If this committee was to approve these drawings, how does it affect your ability to even do a site plan? I mean, because now you're looking at a site plan application, but you've got a whole building design forced upon you.
Should it go through site plan before here, you know, so they can settle on the design. But anyways, I don't think Kay can answer it, or she's already answered it, so should we be repeating ourselves unless there's something new you want to add?
Well, through you, Mr. Chairman, if I can add, and in fairness, the Committee of Adjustment process is one element of the overall development approval process. So no decision that is made by the committee would predetermine the outcomes of other applications, whether it be a site alteration permit or a site plan. However, should we review those applications, which would be required, and there are changes that affect the merits of this consent or its approval of this consent, I would have to seek a legal opinion as to what implements or what impacts that has on the approvals that had been granted and whether or not the applicant would have to return to this return to this committee with a new set of applications before you and do the whole thing all over again.
Okay, I think we've exhausted this discussion, but I'm going to throw the ball back at Mr. Tulowski's court because he's the one that moved this direction of the discussion. I think I'm getting persuaded that that you have ample control. At least this discussion's helped me. And
through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I have a suggestion.
You were silent for a while. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm taking it all in, sir.
Yes.
I make this comment in the context of where we are in this application. This application was submitted in October of last year. We've gone far beyond what is typically required for a consent application. We've done numerous air trenching exercises around town trees. We've had 3 iterations of an arborist report prepared in support of what the town has asked. We've submitted conceptual drawings at the request of the town with our application. As I've said before, things have gone south when I have done that, and things have gone south when I haven't done that. So we've done all this information, we've done everything that we've been asked, and now this evening we've also committed to, on the part of my client, committed
Yes.
to approval of the sets of drawings that we've submitted. Perhaps
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm thinking what I'm hearing is it's a legal conundrum. So
perhaps the solution lies in the committee imposing a condition of the severance application whereby the client provides the town with an undertaking that the lots be developed in accordance with the September 14th drawings.
yeah, I think we're getting into a different set of discussion on undertakings. We'll just leave it at that. Mr. Tulowski, since you started the ball down this hill, is there anything you wish to add? Any last thoughts, or we're going to take this matter into committee after Mr. Tulowski says no? Okay, I'll take the silence as wanting to not speak to the matter any further. So we'll move for I'll look for a recommendation. Who would like to move a recommendation on this?
Mr. Capper, are you going to email me your presentation?
No, actually, Ms. McCrae, I'm going to give it to you right this evening.
Okay, thanks.
So there you go. It's right there.
Go ahead, Sherry. Ms. Pical.
Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied with the discussion that we've had so far in terms of the lots and the presentation that was given by Mr. Capper, that the lot size and configuration are in keeping with the lot fabric and they are compatible with the neighborhood. I understand the issue about connecting them or adhering them to a set of plans, but I'm satisfied that the town is well within their wheelhouse in terms of determining what will eventually be an acceptable design on those properties. And I find that the application does conform to the livable Oakville plans, and I'll submit a motion to approve the application subject to the conditions in Appendix A.
Okay, so you're moving the severance, application
Yes.
B1612, finding
Yes.
that it meets the requirements of section 5124?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so subject to conditions A. Discussion on the recommendation? See none?
Chairman,
Discussion?
can I speak?
Nope. You've had your opportunity.
Well, new things in the bill.
Hang on. Sir, we offered you an opportunity to discuss it. We've given you a lot of leeway, and now we're into committee. You just cannot pop up in the middle of us taking a vote on this matter and ask.
Say this new developments here change the flow of the process.
Well, it wasn't any different than that.
Well,
What's different that you heard?
Find out if it had house plans.
Hang on, sorry?
These houses have already been sold. There must be plans somewhere.
Well,
Why aren't they here?
hang on a second. This is the information you had in advance, and you chose not to speak to it. no information's changed. You've seen this. You were only concerned with the creek in the back. You made no position or concerns known about the built form of the buildings. And there's no new information, at least on your part. I can understand others, but.
That they would provide more information.
Well, you could have asked for more if you were uncomfortable. Your submission was limited strictly to the water course on the presumption it's regulated by the conservation
I
hall.
wasn't submitting anything. I'm simply pointing out that there's a water problem.
Okay.
Or has to be.
And you made no submissions on anything else?
It wasn't about the site or anything like that.
Well, we had 3 applications in front of us. It was clearly known to you when we started the process.
You should have explained that a little better.
We did.
I didn't hear you. By the way, there's
Yes,
a
sir.
sound system here and nobody's.
I know, it's terrible.
People don't speak into the microphone. And I, with some hearing difficulties, have a lot of problems figuring out what words
And we
are being
apologize
said.
for that. It's terrible, I know.
Yeah,
And
you were one of the culprits.
well, I'm trying to enunciate as much as I can.
Yeah.
I've been quieter, but not tonight. So
You need to be louder.
we're trying, sir. Thank you. Ms. Raquel, you had a recommendation?
Yes, I'm just going to add to this recommendation that while I understand that there's concerns that the plans are not attached to this consent, the idea of a compatible and built form that will comply.
Hang on a second. We've been sidetracked by a different discussion. We reached the point in our discussion when you moved your recommendation and you gave us the reasons why.
Yep.
And you found that, at least your recommendation is, you found that it meets the test of 5124 of the Planning Act, which is a test that we're in charge to deal with on the severance. And we were putting the matter to a vote, and I asked for a discussion on the recommendation. That's my recollection. So someone put their hand up. 2 people put their hand up. So we'll start with Mr. Tulowski first, and then we'll go to Mr. Charlebois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I guess it's always good to be reminded that you're never too old to learn. Clearly, I'm uncomfortable with this application. I do find it a little, I guess, disingenuous, maybe too strong a word, but to put drawings in front of the committee and then pull them away and not allow us to tie them. Having said that, I think the applicant and the agent showed great character in coming back with the recommendation or the proposal that they did. During the whole process, thinking it through, while I'm not comfortable with it, I think the conditioning does put us into a circular chicken and egg. Something's got to come first, and so having said all that, the way this has transpired, I will support that recommendation and put my faith in the applicant that they're going to do the right thing with this.
Thank you, Mr. Tulowski. That's sort of in line with what I had stated as well publicly. Mr. Charlebois?
I'm going to echo some of that. The problem that you're facing here, Mr. Capper, is that this committee feels it's been burned in the past, having to deal with these things, and where we end up giving consents on the severance of a lot with some conceptual drawings, only to find out later that what came in was exactly what the public feared, and we're now battling a whole other situation. So I totally get why we would love to see an application come forward a lot more complete. And when I looked at this particular one, I did look at it, and although you did a much better job of explaining it than I got from just reading your report, was I feel pretty comfortable that at the end of the day, with whatever you come forward, if it's going to maintain compatibility and the vast amount of lots in this area are at the median size, that you're going to have a fair amount of difficulty, at least with me, to convince me that at a future time that you should be able to build a home that's substantially larger. So on that basis, I'm going to support this application as presented.
Okay, so the recommendation is to approve severance on those conditions of Schedule A. All those in support? No one opposed. That's been approved. Ms. Mikel, would you like to give a omnibus recommendation for the two related minor variance applications. That being CAVA 185-2016 and CAVA 186-2016.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as the discussion, we've exhausted it already, that these variances are necessary in order to provide access for the severed lot. I move a motion to approve the variances for both lots under CAV 185 at 129 Douglas and CAV 186 at 129 Douglas.
Okay, discussion on recommendation? See none, all those in support? And I guess to reflect on the comments that we received during the presentation, right? Okay, those applications being approved, sir.
Thank you very much, committee.
Ms. McHale, can you start the next applications? I just have to attend to a matter quickly.
We'll call application CAV 164 of 2017 at 152 Ulster Drive.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Gus Ricci. I'm the architect and agent. My address is 64 Rebecca Street, Oakville.
Good evening, Mr. Ricci. Let me just again canvass the room. Is there anyone here with interest in application CAV 164 at 152 Ulster Drive? I see none. As you well know, our procedural bylaws allows us to forego the presentation. Are there any questions of Mr. Ricci at this time for clarification? Sir, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I've read the staff report, the planning comments that are in support of the application, and I have no other additional information to add.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take this matter into committee. Who'd like to move a motion? Mr. Hardcastle, thank you.
Madam Chair, having reviewed the materials and undertaken a site visit, I'm satisfied that the requested variance conforms to the tests of the Act, and I'll put forward a motion of approval, subject to two conditions. The first being that the proposed garage addition be constructed in general accordance with the plans dated July 27, 2017, as submitted. The second being that the approval will expire within 2 years if a building permit has not been issued.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Are there any discussions on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? So your application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
No one opposed.
Absent. Thank you. So we'll proceed to application CAVA 165-2017 at 206 Sheridan Court. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record.
Shane Van Barneveld, 790 Shaver Road, Ancaster, L9G 3K9.
Okay, thank you. Just to see if there's anyone here this evening that has an interest in application CAVA 165-2017 at 206 Sheridan Court. Okay, members, you wish your presentation on this, done your site visit, read the staff report, familiar with the application? Is there anything you wish to add? Our procedural bylaw allows us to dispense of a full presentation in circumstances where it meets certain criteria, and this might be one of them. We'd just like to know if there's anything you wish to add to the application.
I have nothing else to add. I'm very happy with the city comments, and
Okay.
we can keep going.
All right, then we'll take this matter to committee, and we'll ask for someone to move a recommendation. Who would like to move a recommendation on this?
Mr. Chairman, having visited the site, read the staff report, noting that staff is in support of it, and noting also that the public has neither objected nor supported. However, I do find that the analysis by the town is satisfactory. I agree with their findings. I'm going to put forward a recommendation to approve this particular variance, finding it does meet all 4 tests under the Planning Act, and making it subject to the condition that the proposed rear addition be constructed in general accordance with the plans as submitted, and further that condition that the approval will expire 2 years from the date of this decision if the proposed development does not proceed or a building permit is not issued.
Thank you, sir. Discussion on recommendation? See none. All those in support? No one opposed. Your application has been approved.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Application CAV 167-2017 at 514 Morrison Road. Application CAV, okay, 167-2017, 514 Morrison Road. Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Bill Outred. I'm the agent for the owners, Raymond Pace and Cindy Lowe's. My address is 2140 Winston Park Drive, Oakville.
Thank you, sir. Again, is there anyone here this evening that has an interest on the application at 514 Morrison Road, CAVA 167-2017? Okay. There's a few, sir. Proceed with your presentation. You
Okay.
have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
And we start now.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is an application for 2 variances to facilitate building a new single-family detached home on the subject property. The first variance is for a maximum residential floor area for detached dwelling. We are looking for essentially 45.73%, whereas the bylaw permits for this lot size 41%. It results in a home that's going to be 318.72 meters squared. The bylaw permits 285.75 meters squared. The second variance is for lot coverage. The bylaw allows for 25% based on the RL2 Suffolk zone. We're asking in this instance 28.21%. We've submitted the plans for the subject home. Planning has addressed the fact that, and I do agree that the home meets the character and is relatively sympathetic with massing. The home is designed with 2 large dormer features at the front, the roof on either side as well as the back is more or less mansard. There's no large component roof either on the back or the sides that results in an overshadowing to the neighbors. So the design is certainly sympathetic to the massing and the character of other homes within the area. Interesting enough, this is on Morrison, on the north end of Morrison. My feeling is basically the majority of lots on Morrison are of much greater size. This is actually a lot that is non-conforming to the RL2 bylaw requirements as far as the lot coverage, for instance. The RL2 zone as a requirement for lot area requires actually 836 meters squared. The lot as it exists is 696, so it is much less than what the required lot size is in RL2. The same thing is true for coverage, sorry, I should say lot frontage. The bylaw requires 22.5 meters and the frontage for this particular lot is 19.81. So it provides a unique situation where the lot is a lot smaller than the RL2. It's legal non-conforming as is. However, you know, we're trying to design the home on a street that has the majority of all the new builds, has a lot of homes that are greatly, like as far as size comparison, they're quite a bit more than what we're proposing here. The RL2 coverage in the 0 Suffolk zone, O Suffolk zone, it requires 25% coverage for RL2. For RL3 zones and above, it's 35%. So as I said, based on the fact that this lot is smaller than the majority of lots, smaller than what their bylaw requires, I'd suggest that you know, it's more typical of RL3 that permits the 35% coverage. And once again, in this instance, we're asking for 28.21% coverage. Just as a matter of clarification in addressing the planning comments, there was a comment pertaining to the driveway. I know it's hard to see on the overhead, but there was 2 municipal trees that were on the plan that the committee had or has before them shown to be removed. We've since clarified with planning that we will change the driveway to more or less be exactly the width on the municipal boulevard of what exists right now to ensure that the 1 municipal tree is going to be maintained right beside the driveway here. The one that is shown on this particular plan with the X, that is a tree that apparently is dead. So that's why this particular tree is still shown with an X in it. But I do have 6 copies of the revised site plan for the committee's review, and would ask that if, as a pertaining to the planning comments, that if the committee sees fit to use this particular site plan to make the or tie the Committee of Adjustment minor variances, I would ask that we or you at least that you amend the application accordingly to reflect that that new revision. Just as another point of reference, the site as shown, there's only 1 tree being removed to accommodate the new home. The existing home is approximately in this area. I'm just showing my pen here. This being the new proposed home, this is the only tree that's going to be removed with exception of the 1 dead municipal tree. I also like to point out there is a easement on the north side of the property shown as part 3. I can't see it exactly, but I believe it's near to a 10-foot easement. The home is outside of that easement boundary. So seeing the planning comments, and I do agree with the planning comments, I would ask the Committee Adjustment to consider this application as being minor in nature. I believe the home is in keeping, the design is in keeping with the flavor of the homes in on the street. And yes, we are asking for variances for coverage as well as floor area, but once again, just due to the size of the lot, I do believe that it is in keeping and meets the 4 tests.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Edridge. So the revised plan that you provided us is to reflect on the encroachment removal? Is that the trees?
It's just to reflect on the driveway being changed to ensure that the 1 municipal tree is being maintained.
I gotcha, okay.
Okay,
All right.
so,
So in all other respects, that site plan remains the same?
Everything else remains the same. I understand the comment pertaining to the encroachments, and that's no issue.
Okay.
Those encroachments can be removed.
Okay, Mr. Charlebois?
Just a question of clarification, because I know you've given us this particular drawing, and if I was to go forward and make a recommendation, I'd be leery about just looking at a brand new drawing and making sure it compared to the one that was in before. If I just said that the previous drawing was fine, but the 2 conditions as noted in here, that subject to a revised driveway design which does not impact to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Engineering,
Right, exactly.
and that all the encroachments, would you be okay with that, or are you asking me to specifically approve this new site plan that you submitted?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think either or would work.
Okay.
We would simply specify the actual architectural drawings dated July 27, 2017, and the site plan with the new revision date apply, but you are correct in bringing that up because...
You've actually done your homework to satisfy condition number 1 with this plan. That's what you're telling us.
Well, I mean, the only issue is if this plan is revised through site alterations, it may change if I like specify a revision date. So maybe it is correct to basically deal with that condition as set out. I think that's fine.
Yes. All right. If that's the way the committee is inclined, I think another plan just shows us that you're able to meet that condition, and that's you're on your way to satisfying that condition.
Yeah, fair enough.
And if it's a condition that becomes part of the approval, then you're certainly ahead of the game. Okay. Any further questions? See none? Okay, sir, just don't go too far. Have a seat in the front there. Who would like to start off first? There was a show of hands on both sides of the room. Whoever's down here quickest gets the microphone. And I remind everyone to speak into their microphones and as best they can. The acoustics are terrible in this room.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Armstrong, 513 Morrison Road, Oakville. I am the owner of the house directly across the street from this proposal. I think the first item I was going to talk about would be the line of fir trees along the front of the property between my house and the proposed house. And if I understand correctly, all of those trees will be maintained as they are, except for one which is dead. Is that correct?
That is our understanding, and we saw a sketch that's on there that moves the driveway to save that one tree, save and accept. You see where the X is on this plan that's overhead? Can you see it, or do we need to dim the lights?
Yeah. Does that mean the driveway is going to be the same width as it is now?
There's no variance for the width of the driveway, correct?
Okay. Is there a start date proposed yet? Completion
Usually,
date?
if this is approved, and it's a big if, we don't know yet, we have a 2-year limit for them to get their building permit, otherwise the variance expires. So we can't force anyone to build anything.
The reason I was also asking, the time frame between the start and the completion of the project could be a problem for us, because we've gone through this over the last year. Several houses down the street took over 1.5 years to build, and that was really unacceptable because the road was full of mud. You couldn't walk down the sidewalk. It was a poor construction site.
I'm really sad to report that we have no control over people's construction schedules, and you know, the contractors are higher, and the litigation might slow things down. In the ideal world, things should be done quickly, but we have no control. We can't sit here and tell you that, oh yeah, it'll be done in 12 months, because first, we don't know, and it's not in our power to condition it that way.
Fine, that answers my question.
But your concerns are understood. I mean, you know, whether it's change, and it's change that's for a long period of time, has impact.
All right, talking through you, Mr. Chairman, if I can ask a question.
Sure.
Where will all the construction vehicles be parked for this project? It's a very small width of property, and I'm directly across the street, and as happened over the last 1.5 years, they park everywhere. They chew up people's lawns and all that. If I could ask that question of the proposed owner or architect.
I guess you can, but again,
you
you're
have no
asking
control.
tough questions, you know, at least questions we can't answer, and I don't know how you, presumably the trades will try to park on site, but more than likely they probably can. They can't, depending who's there. And there will no doubt be an inconvenience to you during the period of construction.
It just will
But
affect.
we're trying to address the 4 tests under the Planning Act.
Pardon me?
We're trying to address the 4 tests that are under the Planning Act. Is it desirable? Is it appropriate? Is it minor? Does it meet the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw? But we're not trying to minimize or otherwise discount the inconvenience that occurs during construction.
I understand.
That's understood, but we're not in charge of applying that as a test.
I understand.
So there's where our challenge is.
The surrounding homes are all bungalows, including mine next door across the street. Even the new ones that have been built near us are both bungalows. And I don't believe this fits in with the area and the neighborhood. If it was designed a little differently, I think it would be more acceptable.
So it doesn't fit in with the character of the area, in your opinion?
That's arguable, of course, but that is my opinion.
That's fair enough, yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any questions? See none. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being the first. Who else would like to come down?
Good evening. Michael Bunn. I live at
Michael, sorry?
Bunn, B as in Bob, UNN.
Okay.
And
thank you.
My address, 518 Morrison Road. So we are this property here.
Yeah, we got you.
And I just had 2 questions. One is on the elevation. I just like confirmation that from our property, we would be facing the west elevation as they've described. I think of ourselves as being north of them, which is why I found the drawings a little confusing.
Well, let's get that elevation on there. Mr. Outridge, sorry. Can you put that elevation on there, the elevation that the gentleman will see, so we can understand?
I have it there, if that's...
That's the one?
That's the west, I think.
That's the west, yeah.
So that's
So
what I'd be
confirm that's the
facing.
elevation this gentleman will be seeing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we established that fact.
Great,
Mr.
and my only other comment was I'd like the approval, if it's granted, to be conditional on the number, relative size, and placement of windows on the west elevation to be as
shown?
set out in
Yeah,
the
so
schematics,
what you
yes.
normally do, if it's approved, we approve it in accordance with the plans, because we too like to know that what we see is what we get.
Okay.
So fair enough. Thank you for your comment.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the committee on this application? This is application CAV 167-2017 at 514 Morrison Avenue. See none? Morrison Road, sorry. Mr. Outridge? Outred.
Outred, yes.
Outred. I apologize.
No problem. Just to address the neighbor that was just up, yes, we obviously have a condition that the committee adjustment is contingent on all the elevations and the drawings as presented and as applied for. So yes, the west elevation will be the same as what was presented. Addressing the first neighbor, yes, all trees that are shown on the site plan to be maintained will be maintained. As far as construction and where vehicles are parked, I'd be happy to get the neighbor's name and put them in touch with the owner. Obviously, construction is an entire inconvenience for streets, and I think with some planning ahead, there can be some methods of trying to alleviate issues pertaining to parking with the neighbors. So I'd be happy to get his name and put him in touch with the owner for the construction.
Well, you have his name, and he's here right now. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to have both of you gentlemen exchange numbers or make the contact. That's
Yes.
a good idea. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think I've put together the points pertaining to this particular site, and once again, I believe it's a good designed, well-designed home for this particular neighborhood, and certainly the massing, I think, is in keeping not with necessarily the bungalows, but with a lot of the new builds. It is sympathetic to the bungalows on the street.
Okay, thank you. On that basis, we'll take this matter to committee. Who would like to move a recommendation? Mr. Hardcastle?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, pull the microphone close to you because we're having audio problems today. Someone's got their cell phone
Thank you,
on.
Mr. Chairman. Having reviewed the materials, heard the submissions, including those of the neighbors, I will be putting forward a motion of approval. I believe that the building has a sensitive architectural design that works to mitigate the effects of the larger mass proposed through this minor variance application. The sloped roof and lowered eave height works very well towards reducing the perceived mass and bringing the general mass of the upper floor closer in towards the middle of the building. So I will be putting forward a motion of approval, and that motion of approval will be subject to 3 conditions. The first being that the proposed dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the plans dated July 27, 2017 is submitted, subject to the revised driveway design, which does not impact town trees, to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Engineering. That the encroachments on the municipal right-of-way be removed to the satisfaction of the Director of Engineering and Construction. And the last one being that the approval will expire within 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support, subject to those 2 conditions? Okay, no one in opposition. Sorry, 3 conditions, my apologies. Your application is being approved, subject to those 3 conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget to exchange information with the gentleman there. Application CAVA 168-2017 at 42 Lakeshore Road West.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. David Nelson, Ruth Victor and Associates, 481 North Service Road West, Unit A33, on behalf of Delbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Nilsson. Is there anyone here that has an interest in this application, CAVA 168-2017? Okay. Mr. Nilsson, please proceed with the presentation.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. The application before you this evening pertains to this area of the site plan. There is a residential use in that part of the property. And the way the current bylaw, 2014-014 special provision reads, there is a required setback for any residential uses located at grade. I'd like to point out to you that this is a project that has been before the town of Oakville since 2007. The bylaw that was ultimately approved in 2009-144 had a clause in it that pertained to residential uses at grade. And that is right there, as highlighted on the original bylaw, 2009-144. The intent of that bylaw was to provide for...
Did you mean bylaw 2009-839?
No, 144 is the one I've got here.
Okay, because I see the bylaw, the land to which bylaw 2009-839 applies.
That's a special provision, Mr. Chairman. Bylaw number 2009-144 over
Oh,
here.
okay, I get that, I see it, yeah.
The intent of that clause in the bylaw, Mr. Chairman, was to reflect the fact that there were commercial uses at grade fronting onto Lakeshore Road with residential uses along Chisholm, which is essentially a residential street. From my perspective as a planner, it's not appropriate to wrap the commercial uses down around the corner onto Chisholm. It's more appropriate to retain the residential flavor of the street. Although it is a denser form of development on the street, it is permitted under the bylaw. And that is the reason we're here this evening, Mr. Chairman, the bylaw, when it was translated from 2009-144 into 2014-14, did contain an error. And the error essentially required the 12-meter setback on both Lakeshore Road and Chisholm.
Okay, just for my curiosity, what does bylaw 2009-839? What is that? What's that reference to that bylaw?
That one I don't know, Mr. Chairman. I'm not familiar with 2009 839. It's a special provision, 839. It's very unusual.
Is that a type
perhaps Kate can answer that question for us.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the committee, our bylaw numbers don't get that high. 839 is the special provision number, so that is 839th special exception to our bylaw under the 1984-63 bylaw. That is what that number references. Today, the zoning is under 2014-14 is CBD Special Provision 17.
Right. It just seems like it's an error in that section because it says specifically, says bylaw 2009. Nothing turns on it. It just seems like an error. That's why I picked up 2009.
I would agree, Mr. Chairman. That's an error in bylaw 2009-144.
Yeah. But basically, it's exception to 839 brought in by bylaw 2009-144, and it was somehow carried forward in 2014-14.
Yes, and translated incorrectly.
Incorrectly, gotcha. Because you were okay under the old bylaw because you had the 839 exception.
Correct.
Yeah. And no one caught that during the transition period.
No, and unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, I have been handling the site plan aspect of this. The original planner who had this file left the firm in January of 2016. I've been dealing with the site plan matters since then. We are now through the fourth rendition on the site plan application. It is on the verge of being sent to the site plan committee, except that we are not in conformity with the zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, sir? Yes. Any questions of Mr. Nelson at the moment? Seeing none, okay. Sir, just to be clear, you didn't need a variance under 1984 63 or 163, right?
No, Mr.
You
Chairman.
complied with this 839 exception.
Correct,
and,
Mr. Chairman.
water got muddled in a translation and transition to the new zoning bylaw.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Actually, I'll put up his drawing here.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Mark Majewski, 87 Chisholm Street, across the street from this development. And my issue with the development is that, as he just referred to, Chisholm is a residential street. And now we have this development coming up on the street. And the entire street is set back by the 12 meters except for this particular one. And there's a number of extenuating circumstances. If you look at the roof design, you can see it's almost 5 stories. So now it's 5 stories and being pushed right to the edge of the sidewalk, which is obviously going to change the whole dynamics of the street and make it much more urban-like. When you take into account this development has no green space whatsoever inside for the residents, it seems to just trying to put as much square footage on the unit as possible. With this development too, there are only 8 parking spots outside for the 3 restaurants and the 24 units, which ultimately means that people will be parking up and down Chisholm, which will mean Chisholm will become a parking lot because there are no municipal lots near it. And all of these factors take away from the community and the feeling that is on Chisholm Street with this very large development coming into the corner.
Thank you, that's very succinct. Appreciate it. Don't go away. Is there questions? Thank you. Who else would like to speak to the committee on application CAV A 168-2017 at 42 Lakeshore Road West? Okay. Sir, Mr. Nelson, anything you wish to add? It's your chance for any rebuttal.
Just to point out, Mr. Chairman, that if there were commercial uses at grade on Chisholm Street, the bylaw would be met in its entirety, and we would proceed to construct on that basis. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, see none. We'll take this matter to committee. Who would like to move a recommendation? Mr. Tulowski, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'll move this application be approved as applied for, finding that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and that it is clearly a technical amendment to correct an error. I will note that there's presentation from the community and several letters from the community. But Mr. Chair, the concerns being raised by the community are really concerns that should have been raised and perhaps were raised at the time the initial zoning bylaw was passed, and the objections are, as I see it, not to the variance in front of the committee today, but really are objections to the development of the site in general. So with that, Mr. Chair, again, I would move approval of the application, making it subject to 2 conditions: that a building permit issue within 2 years and that development proceed in general accordance with the drawings provided.
Discussion on recommendation? Seeing none, all those in support? No one opposed, the application has been approved, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Good evening. Application CAVA 169-2017 at 296 Steeles Lane. So say it again.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman, the condition as noted for the last
Mr. Nelson,
application.
don't go. Mr. Nelson, don't go. Yes?
Sorry, it just took me a second to look it up. I just want to clarify, the condition as requested by staff is that the proposed development be constructed in accordance with the final approved site plan to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, not as the plan submitted at today's meeting. I just want to make sure that that is properly reflected.
Sorry, we understood that to be the case. Sir, you understood that to be the case as well?
That makes an eminent amount of sense, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we just wanted to. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that you had that. Yeah, good. Thank you. Just glad we clarified that. Okay. Sorry. Application again. Calling application CAVA 169-2017, 296 Steeles Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record again, it's Gus Ricci at 64 Rebecca Street, Oakville, Ontario.
Okay, is there anyone here that has an interest in the application CAVA 169-2017 at 64 Rebecca Street? Yes. Who? Oh, sorry, Steeles Lane.
Steeles
yeah,
Lane.
296 Steeles Lane, 169-2017 Steeles Lane. Okay, see none, I guess. Is he your client?
He's our client.
He's your client, okay,
Yes.
so you're
He's in
here on his
support.
behalf. So, members, you've done your site visit, you read the staff report, understand the application. Is there any questions, items for clarification? Seeing none, sir, is there anything you wish to add to the matter?
No, I do not have any more.
Okay, so we'll take this matter to committee. Who would like to move a recommendation? Thank you, Ms. McCall.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move a motion to approve this application as submitted. The increase in the lot coverage is simply because of the incorporation of the covered portions in the calculation, so there's no negative impact on the streetscape. I'll move the motion to approve this application subject to the condition that the proposed porch additions be constructed in general accordance with the plans dated August 16 of 2017 as submitted, and that, do we need a building permit or, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, there's still, okay.
Subject to a building permit within 2 years?
Yes, please,
Yes,
thank
okay.
you. That's our standard condition.
Yeah, and we reflect there were no orals.
There was
written
no
submissions.
oral
Yes.
submissions
Yes.
against the proposal
For,
from the
or
public.
for an opposition.
Or
Okay, the
opposition.
recommendation is to approve subject to those two conditions we heard. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in support? No one opposed, your application being approved, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Charlebois, you may leave the room. We'll deal with application CAVA 138-2017 at 190 Our Chart Road. Give us your name and address for the record and wait till Mr. Charlebois leaves the room before you make a
I shall
presentation.
do so. William Hicks, Hicks Design Studios, 295 Robinson Street, L6J 1G7, acting as agent on behalf of the owners at 190 Arishat Road.
Okay, thank you. This is a matter that was deferred from our meeting of July 25th, 2017. Again, I'll just for the record, because the recording goes this way and not that way. Is there anyone here that has an interest in application CAB 138-2017, 190 Arishat Road, and there's no one in the audience? Is there any changes that were made between the deferral and this application that you need to bring to our attention?
Yes, there were. It was reduced in size, and in terms of working with planning and with Kate, we actually stepped in the second floor, so it essentially matches the side yard of the existing house, which I think was one of the concerns of the adjacent neighbors. And basically the coverage remains the same, which is related to 3 porches that are on the property. So,
Okay.
so it was reduced in size essentially.
Okay. And you eliminated some variances or reduced some?
Same variance, just a reduction to 46.67%. I think it was used to be at 48.9, I believe. So yes.
Okay. And I guess the lot coverage went down as well?
Lot
No.
coverage remained the same because the main floor footprint remained
All right,
as
okay,
it was.
fair enough. Members, those remaining, any questions of Mr. Hicks? See none? Okay, we'll take this matter to committee. Who would like to move a recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle.
Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied that the requested variances conform to the 4 tests of the Act. Based upon the staff report and clarifications provided by the agent. And as such, I'll put forward a motion of approval subject to 2 conditions. The first being that the proposed dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the plans as submitted. And the second being that the approval will expire within 2 years of the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued.
And also to reflect that there were no, there was a written submission on this one, but there was no one here to present any oral evidence, but there was one written submission on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. That's on the record, and we have it as part of our package. Thank you. Is there a discussion on recommendation? Seeing none, all those in support? No one opposed, so your application has been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members?
Thank you. Good evening.
Thanks, Kate.
Mr. Charlebois will know that he has to return once he sees you departing. I'm sure he's there around somewhere. Okay, so we have the minutes of August 22nd. We'll wait until Mr. Charlebois arrives. They were pre-circulated. Everyone was here for that meeting? Well, you know what? Maybe Mr. Charlebois has re-entered the room. We're dealing with the minutes, Mr. Charlebois. Who would like to move a recommendation on the minutes? Mr. Hardcastle, to accept them as is, subject to any, noticeable errors and omissions. Any discussion on the minutes for August 22nd? Seeing none, all those in support? No one opposed? And we need an adjournment. Motion. Mr. Hardcastle moves to adjourn. All those in support? Okay, we're adjourned at 9:10. Thank you.